if that's true, how could it be that we're living longer, we're healthier, we've got more stuff, we've got a strong economy? How can you say that we're past the 59th minute? Well, the reality is that we're living with the illusion of abundance and plenty. We're depleting the soils, we're emptying the oceans, our forests are crashing, the atmosphere is changing. The indications are all around us. So anyone that continues to say we've got to have steady growth is just digging deeper and deeper into the legacy for our children. The problem that I see with economics at its base is that it doesn't put value on the important things that matter to me. Let me show you what I mean. I live in a very privileged part of Vancouver, down by the water in Kitsilano. And a few years ago, I got a letter from a real estate agent that said, offshore money from the Orient is pouring into Vancouver. Now's a good time to sell your house and buy up. Man, did that tick me off. My house is not just a piece of property, it's my home. And I thought, okay, if I was going to let this guy list my house for sale, what would I put down as the features that make that house something special? I bought that place 25 years ago while my wife was a graduate student in the United States. And when she came back, she fixed it up for me. She put in a set of cupboards, and I value that. And my father is a cabinet maker. When we bought the house, he built some of the furniture in there, and I put that down. It's just homemade stuff, but I value it because it's my father's. We have a dogwood tree in the back, and my children have made a cemetery there. Lots of snakes and birds, and when our family dog Pasha died, we buried them in that area, and I put that down. When my best friend Jim Murray came from Toronto to Vancouver, he helped me build a fence, and he carved a handle out of wood. And it's still there. Every time I open that fence, I think of my best friend Jim. My in-laws live upstairs. They're avid gardeners, and they knew I loved asparagus and raspberries, so they grow asparagus and raspberries for me. And I put that down on my list. When my mother died, we put my mother's ashes on a clematis plant along the fence. And every year when that clematis plant blooms, my mother is there. And as I made that list of the things that make my house a home, I realized those are what make it priceless. And yet on the market, they are totally worthless. And there's something funny about an economic system that puts value on things that are not nearly as important as those that are regarded as trivial. And that's the problem with the whole value system that's built into our economics. People often ask me, how do you keep on going? Because the story that you're telling is pretty bleak. I've made a commitment into the future. My children didn't ask to be born. They've given me great pleasure and pride, but I owe them something big time. I have grandchildren now. I have a real obligation into the future.
Education is something that must involve the masses of the people.
No one could have anticipated those changes. Soviet Union vanishes. Cold War is over. Berlin Wall down. Apartheid done. So I don't think anyone today has a right to say, it's too late, there's nothing we can do. I think hope is what impels us through this time. And I think of Nelson Mandela. You know, over all that period of time he was in prison, he could have at any time got out. All he had to do was turn his back on the ANC. And there must have been times when, after 15, 20 years, when he thought, oh my God, what am I doing? He had hope, he hung in there, and look what happened. So I find that very inspiring, and I don't think anyone has got the right to say it's too late. It's very easy, I think, if you're a young person, to begin to be cynical about the political process and about business. They see examples over and over again where people say one thing, but they do another. But I think youth have a number of people that can act as role models, as inspirations. For me, as a younger man, Rachel Carson certainly was one of my great inspirations. But I would think today that Nelson Mandela is a great inspiration. Even people like Sting and U2, who have done far more than just be celebrities. They have used their celebrities to try to further causes they believe in. And I think youth really has to realize that the future is theirs. They're going to inherit the planet.
My dad always says, you are what you do, not what you say. Well, what you do makes me cry at night. You grown-ups say you love us, but I challenge you, please, make your actions reflect your words. Thank you.
When my daughter was 12 and gave a speech at Rio, a lot of adults came up to her and said, well, you know, you're right. We grown-ups have done a terrible job of taking care of the planet. And we look to you to make the difference. You're going to grow up and you're going to be different. And she had a very interesting double-barreled answer. Her immediate answer was, oh, is that your excuse for not doing anything? You're going to wait and let us do it. But then she followed up by saying, how can we be any different when you're our role models? You show us how to behave when we become adults. So she put the responsibility right back on the adults. And I think youth have so much at stake. That's what you've got to do. As young people, you've got to remind grown-ups of why are they in politics in the first place? Why are they so busy making all this money? Isn't it to ensure a strong, healthy future for them? All of my early memories of life are filled with adventures with my dad going fishing and hiking. And that really, to me, is the greatest way to learn. I mean, I always consider those early years my education, to learn about biology effortlessly by first-hand contact with the natural world. I knew when the fish were spawning. I knew what the bass fed on. I knew how to find leeches and frogs if I wanted to use them for bait. I learned all kinds of biology. When I had time off as a boy, I'd jump on my bike and pedal about 15 minutes away on a dirt road to a great swamp. And you know, in the 40s and early 50s, I was going through puberty, and that's a terrible time when the hormones are hammering through your body and brain damaging you. And I used to go out to my swamp, and that was my magic place. That was a place where I forgot all of those hang-ups and just learned, watched, and come home triumphant with bottles of eggs of salamanders and frogs, and having seen foxes and skunks and hawks. My swamp is now covered by a huge shopping mall, and my grandparents' farm grows high-rise apartments. So I wonder, where do the young Davids and Marys find their inspiration, as I did as a boy in London? They find it in shopping malls, cruising the net, and playing electronic games. And I can tell you, it's no substitute for the wonder and the magic of the real world.